Welcome to another episode of Eat, Smoke, Drink. I'm not in my usual beautiful background today. Unfortunately, there's a level 4 lockdown, so we're stuck at home. And I thought, well, I have to make use of the time, so why not having whiskey for breakfast? It's a good use of that time. I'm just kidding. It's actually the afternoon, but you know. Today I'm reviewing the Taketsuru Pure Malt 21-year-old. So this is a blended whiskey, minimum 21 years of age. It's quite a pricey whiskey, and I want to take you through it on my opinions on it, my views on it. And yeah, bottom line at the end of this is it worth getting, and you know, my general view of it. So let's get pouring. And what I find interesting with the Japanese whiskies is that even though they're quite a premium whiskey, they've done away with the cork. You know, they've got a screw top. It's quite a modern take on whiskey bottles. I mean, the screw top, I mean, you know, there's no chance of a loose fit. The air's going to get in there. But also it's quite utilitarian. I mean, you know, it doesn't break on you. It's just a screw top, which is I kind of like it, but at the same time, I kind of don't. But I guess it reflects the, you know, the fact that Japanese whiskey is more modern and slightly different to the scotch industry. But anyway, let's get nosing. So from the get-go, the nose is excellent. The nose is excellent. The percentage is 43%. The nose is excellent, and when it comes to Japanese whiskies, you can't really fault the blending of them. I mean, the blending of Japanese whiskey from any Japanese whiskies I've had, even if it's a really young one, have always been outstanding. Perfectly blended, in my opinion. And the nose is a perfect nose. Well balanced, sweet, oak, spice, a hint of smoke, caramel, burnt sugar. The 43% is surprising because it doesn't smell like it's a 43%. It's a bit higher when you smell it. Now, I don't exactly know what casks are used on this, but one, this would be, I mean, it doesn't say anywhere here. Let me just double check that. I don't want to tell you a fib. But this will be chill filtered. This will be chill filtered, which I'm extremely against, and I'll tell you why. And also, I'll presume that the color of the the color of the whiskey is also artificially colored with a caramel colorant. Which in my opinion is also a bit of a shortcut. But let's focus on the flavors, and then let's get into my narrative of that. Slightly floral, like a smoky incense, distant aroma of incense in a temple. Maybe that's because it's Japanese whiskey and I'm imagining I'm in a temple. No, it's not. But it's got Japanese whiskies, I find, does have that incense aroma. Floral, jasmine flowers, pine needles, a very fine hint of pine needles. Wet stones on a hot day. White pepper, candied ginger. Excellent nose. Let's get sipping. First sip, ginger spice, followed by sugar syrup. Definitely smoke in there. I'm not sure if it's a peat, but it's definitely smoke. Like coal smoke. Not a wood smoke, not a peat smoke, but a coal smoke. Sweet is the main theme. Spiced from the ginger, a bit of black pepper, a hint of anise, star anise. Look, 21 years old. I would say this whiskey is quote unquote, and I hate using the term, but it is the only term I can describe it. This whiskey is smooth. Okay, by all accounts, it's smooth. When you drink it, it's palatable. You can sip it, and it's easy to sip. There's no challenge at all, and that to me is a perfect blending. And at 21, they have reached a good balance. They have reached a good balance when it comes to power, ABV, and letting the age come through. But right in the back palate, I'm still getting a bit of new make spirit. Now, I'm not sure why that would be. I'm getting a hint of new make spirit. That could be from the blending itself. Maybe the barrels are not all well aged and well involved in the barrels. The spirits, I say, is not well involved in the barrel, and as such, by blending it, you do get a good flavor profile. But I'm getting a slight bitterness in the back end, which I'm not quite liking. The aftertaste is very two-dimensional, very short, and it's very much a spirituous aftertaste. That's probably because it's 43%. Watering down a whiskey actually, a lot of the time, allows that to come out from what I've experienced. And I know some people might disagree because some people's palates might not be able to handle cask strength or higher ABVs, but I think it's just a matter of conditioning. You have to condition yourself to get used to those and really think about it. And I think that they've watered this down too much, and I'm tasting that bitterness on the back of the palate, the finish. Also, the texture is very light. It's easy drinking. It's pleasurable drinking. Can I fault it? Well, yes and no. The blending is excellent, but I'm faulting it because it's boring as hell. There is not much texture. There's not much complexity. But is it delicious? Yes, it is. It is delicious. It's just a relatively generic whiskey in terms of its deliciousness. So it's not something that will be extremely memorable, in my opinion. It's not something you go, wow, that was like one of the best whiskeys I've ever had. If someone gives us something, I'll be like, that's a decent whiskey. That's a good whiskey. When we actually had it at a tasting, we did it as a blind tasting, and we had to guess what whiskey it was, region and age and all of that, which is almost near impossible. But I did guess it was around about but actually, to be fair, by a bit of deduction, the 43%, I picked that one, but the 21 is because it tasted blended. You can taste blended whiskey because it does round off those edges. It does round off the what's that word? The rustic nature of spirits blending, and so I guess with a blended whiskey and the caliber of whiskey on the night, that we could deduct, was it a Royal Salute? So it wasn't, and so we didn't get what whiskey it was, but we got the age. Now, funny thing is, a lot of Japanese whiskies are actually Scotch. So there's new regulations now that tell you that you can't just label it Japanese whiskey anymore. Now this one here, it's pure malt, Taketsuru whiskey. It doesn't say Japanese whiskey, right? So the interesting thing about that is that you can pretty much bet that this will have a good component of Scotch in it. Probably a Ben Nevis, because Nikka, the company that owns Nikka, owns Ben Nevis. And so that body that you're tasting is probably a Ben Nevis, but they've watered it down with some other Japanese whiskies or even other Scotch. Chill filtration, disappointing, and that's where the thinness and complexity gets cut off in your palate. Every sip doesn't progress. Every sip is the same. In fact, my third sip then tasted a lot less flavoursome and complex than the first sip and second sip. And this is my experience with whiskies that has been chill filtered, is that, look, it's not bad to drink necessarily. It's not a bad whiskey. It's just that it lacks that progression of mouthfeel and palate and flavors in your mouth, because, well, when you chill filter it, you're taking a massive component of the whiskey. And so if anyone out there says it doesn't affect flavor, they're full of shit. I challenge anyone out there, because when you take something away from a whiskey, you're going to take something that you're drinking and tasting away. And when you add something like colorant, I can guarantee you that will change the flavor. Why? You go and get that exact same caramel colorant. You can get it from any food shop, from any food manufacturing wholesale shop. Get that same color they use and drink it neat, and tell me it doesn't taste like something, right? So that taints it as well. So that's a bit disappointing. Look, would I buy this whiskey again? This was a good whiskey, a good drinking whiskey, but for the price you're paying, you're getting a 21-year-old blended malt. For the price you're paying, I think you're looking at about 500 or 400 US for this bottle. Yeah, 500 US. Man, you can get a lot for that. You can get a lot for that. You can get a 15 to 18-year-old whiskey that would really give you that that complexity and palate profile. So that's a tough question, because Japanese whiskey is in a league of their own, technically in a league of their own, but I don't think they are, but they are because they're Japanese whiskey, the price you pay for them versus age. But I think that you can do much better. You can do much better with this price. You could, I mean, for that kind of price, you can get some closed distilleries that are super interesting. You could probably get, you know, a young Pitovich or some Imperial or something like that. If you wanted something premium and rare, hell, you could even get a 20 for that price. You can get, I'd probably say, two bottles, maybe 1.5 bottles of Springbank 21, or an Ardbeg 19. You know, something like that. Anyway, look, I can go on, but anyway, that's my take on it. Japanese whiskies, I think, are overpriced, and this will be triggering a lot of people out there, because Japanese whiskies, to me, has become a status symbol. You know, people will post a picture with a Japanese bottle of whiskey with a Rolex watch and a Louis Vuitton and whatever, you know, on Instagram. But you know what? That's just posing. You know, it's posing without substance. And I think that if they dropped it by 50% the price, I would definitely say go ahead. I mean, Royal Salute. A Royal Salute is actually quite cheap. You can go to duty free and buy a Royal Salute for $200 or $180, and that to me is actually a really, really good whiskey for the price you're paying, for the age you're paying, even though it's blended, right? So until next time, thank you for joining me, and it's been a while since my last confession. Make sure you eat, smoke, drink.